Hey TCSTV viewers, it's Dave and Evelyn from the camera store, and today we are very excited because
we have the Panasonic S1H.
the S1H is Panasonic's third series in their S series of cameras, and by far this is the most cinema-driven camera they've made.
Yeah, if you thought that the S1 was the hybrid video and photo camera, this takes it one step further. It's built from the ground up for video, and they've actually taken some of the features away from the previous S series line, as well as the beloved GH series with lots of great tools, and even some features from the Panasonic Cinema VariCam line.
Yeah, now the big headline on this camera is the ability to shoot unlimited 6K footage. Now this makes things so flexible.
When it comes to the flexibility with 6K, you obviously are going to get a lot of different framing options. You also are able to do this unlimited record time, which is really exciting, and it truly is unlimited because with the grip, you can still hot swap batteries and memory cards and keep the 6K recording going all day or all night long.
Now 6K recording is a very hot feature, and Panasonic has adapted by putting a cooling fan on the back, which has several different modes that you can prioritize. When it comes to frame rates, the S1H is pretty impressive. We have 6K at 24 frames per second. If you go to 4K, you can max out at 60 frames per second. With a slight crop, you can go to 1080, you can shoot 180 frames per second, but more importantly, you have full manual control under all of those frame rates.
Yeah, when it comes to your color space, you're shooting at 420 10-bit if you're shooting 6K, but if you're shooting 4K cinema or regular 4K, you're shooting at 422 10-bit, and that's internal or output to an HDMI recorder. Now we're not seeing any raw output yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do something eventually because the hardware seems to be there, so we'll see what the future holds with raw recording. All of those cinema specs sound really amazing, but of course, as always, none of that means anything unless you can apply it to your own cinematography and to your workflow.
Exactly.
And so we talked to our videographer, Schmidt, about creating something special with this camera. And so we put our heads together and we headed down the street to Innercity Brewery, where we are right now, and we collaborated with them to really test this camera. I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty impressed with what Brendan was able to capture using this camera in a very short amount of time.
And a very limited budget.
Yes, no budget. But it was great being able to collaborate and work together. And normally in our trio, Brendan has to kind of follow us around, and Dave and I get to play with all the toys. But this time, we put this camera in Brendan's hands to see what he was able to capture. And it was a really good test because we were able to push all of the different modes, and it was a great way to get some insight on how this camera would fit into our own workflow, because it's something that we're considering for the future too.
Now, in that video, we shot primarily on Cinema 4K in 422 10-bit at 24 frames per second.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a departure from what we normally shoot in. We typically shoot 30p, but in this case, we wanted 24 for that more cinematic look to it. And also, if we were shooting any 6K footage, you only have the option to shoot in 24, so we wanted to make sure that they matched in the same project. The other thing is we really wanted to push dynamic range. Brendan shot a lot of it in vlog and wanted to see how far it would go, and it actually held together really nicely, and so when we were shooting in the bright sunlight, it did really well.
Yeah, now this is a pre-production camera, keep that in mind, but Panasonic claims 14 stops of dynamic range.
Not only were we impressed with the dynamic range of the sensor, there's also some other nice features, including a low pass filter to prevent moire, and it's also great that this has dual native ISO.
Yeah,
and
very
so
cool feature.
if you're shooting at high ISOs and darker conditions, just like its little brother, the GH5S, it does a really great job at reducing some of those noise issues that you'd have.
We have a whole host of shooting assist functions on the camera, including waveform, vector scope, and of course time code. Now, the waveform is very cool because you can change the size of it on the rear screen so it doesn't take over more of the screen than you'd like.
Yeah, Brendan was really excited about that.
It's the small things.
Yeah, just little things, just little things. But Brendan also liked that you can have two different zebras on the screen at the same time to manage your highlights, and you can also adjust them a little bit finer too. And if you are shooting vlog, you can use a luminance spot meter, and that allows you to figure out where your 18% gray is when you're shooting vlog.
Now, the S-Series cameras from Panasonic are a very big, beefy camera, but they have a great grip to it. They also have this fantastic viewfinder, which I really like. It's 5.6 dots of resolution. Now, they have relocated the on-off button to on top of the shutter button. That being said, the record button for video are lovely. We have two red buttons are highlighted to make it a little easier to see in lower light, one on top of the camera and now one in the front of the camera.
Yeah, and that's great for a variety of situations, including if you're doing a larger video production and you have the luxury of having an AC pull focus, then they can also start rolling for you too from being on the left side of the camera.
Yeah, now something Brendan could not stop talking about was the articulating screen and how they've implemented that.
Oh yeah, I think videographers of all mankind or humankind are gonna love this. It's great. It takes everything from the Sony tiltable screens and adds a fully articulating screen as well. And that's really handy, especially if you have an HDMI plugged into it. It's not going to affect your inputs, and so you're able to actually rotate the screen any way you want in order to get the framing you want to.
This camera, of course, does have dual card slots, and both the slots are UHS-2 compatible. We also have a high-capacity battery in this camera, but if you're going to do any kind of continuous long recording and video, I'd highly recommend looking into the USB-C options for powering the camera.
Yeah, there's some other nice little features that videographers are gonna love, and we're surprised that this actually isn't implemented in more cameras. Where the tripod plate goes in, there's an extra little pin at the bottom, and so it has that anti-rotational pin for video-mounted tripod plates. So that's really handy, and we also really like that there's a tally lamp on the front of the camera as well as the back of the camera, so we know when it's recording.
Another nice touch from Panasonic is where you attach your camera straps. They're slightly offset, and the one on the left side of the camera is actually in direct line of where the sensor is. So if you're on set and you need to measure your distance from your subject to the sensor itself, you've got a hard anchor point to use your measuring tape with.
Since we've recorded with the GH5 for a long time, we're really happy to see that they've maintained Panasonic's awesome menu systems. They're so easy to find everything, very intuitive, and it's great now that you can filter things like your resolution, your codecs, and other functions and features. And you can also create a my list of all of your favorite resolutions, and so you're easily able to find what you need when you're shooting. We also love that the audio interface has maintained the same, and it's great that you can still use that XLR1 adapter that we use all the time, and you can plug in.
Absolutely love that.
Yeah, you can plug in two mics using the XLR inputs. It all works seamlessly, and Panasonic has made a couple little subtle changes. So they've added the ability to mute your input audio, and they've also given you the option to go down to -18 decibels, which is really handy if you're using more sensitive mics. We also love that in some of the high frame rate modes, you're able to actually record sound at the same time, and so you can sync that all up in post and create a really interesting look to your slow-mo video.
Now, we've been talking nothing but video. Now, can you use this camera as a stills photographer?
Yes, you can.
You certainly can. It is a 24 megapixel resolution sensor and all the functionality of the S1 and the S1R, including the stack shot or the multi-shot where you can get a 96 megapixel still image with, as long as there's nothing really moving in the frame.
Yeah, the only thing that might affect your image quality is that anti-aliasing filter. Panasonic is still using the depth from defocus autofocus system, and they're not moving away from it. This is their technology and they're going to continue with it.
Yeah, now we primarily shoot manual focus when we're doing our episodes and when we were shooting with this camera, and mainly for creative control. Now the autofocus system does work in stills and in video, and it's pretty capable.
Yeah, it's not too bad, but we do choose to manual focus just because it's not quite there yet compared to some other camera systems. We do like with the manual control, you do have this amazing viewfinder, so that really helps nail your focus. But it would be nice if you had the option to punch in so that you can check your focus while you're recording, just like you would on some of the Canon C-series systems.
Now we did notice some improvements from the S1, S1R to the new S1H. If you don't like carrying a tripod around, this camera has 5-axis body image stabilization, which Panasonic claims gives you 6 stops of stabilization. Team it up with one of their S-series lenses, and you get 6.5 stops of stabilization with the dual IS.
Yeah, but it is cool that even if you don't team it up with their lenses, if you're using cinema lenses, we were able to use one of the EF mount adapters. So we have a whole set of Sigma cinema lenses we're able to adapt to this camera. We also use some other Canon glass, and it's nice that you're able to take advantage of 6 stops or 5-axis image stabilization right in the body of the camera.
When you get your hands on this camera and you see how they've designed it, you see what they've put into the camera, it's obvious that Panasonic is going for the very serious videographer.
Yeah, and I'm really impressed that they haven't held anything back. I mean, this is still kind of a consumer level pro video camera that you're getting a lot of the features that you would otherwise not see unless you got up into the 5 or 6 digit pro cinema cameras.
Yeah, I mean, it's loaded.
Yeah, I'm impressed that they're able to incorporate this cooling system so that you can shoot unlimited 6K recording, and we're not seeing that in a lot of other options. I mean, Blackmagic does have the ability to shoot unlimited 6K, however, that's only in their B-RAW footage, which you can only view in Resolve.
Yeah, so this is a much more versatile package and much more flexible to work with. So I'm very interested to see how the market's going to react to a camera like this at this price point.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it would be a really good camera for smaller video productions as a main camera, whether you're doing documentary or even a wedding, but could also be kind of a kick around, weather sealed B cam that is on that more affordable scale.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of adventure videographers will be flocking to this camera.
And it's nice that just like the GH5, you can shoot with anamorphic lenses.
Very cool.
And it gives the option to see the cinemascopes right in the camera, so you'll be able to see your de-squeezed frame and know what the look is going to be.
It's going to be very interesting. I can't wait to spend more time with this camera.
Yeah, let us know what you think of it, as well as our little production they were able to do with Brendan. And please put all your comments below.
And follow us on Instagram.
And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so we can catch you again very soon.